Welcome, everyone. I'd like to bring this regular scheduled Oscoda Township Board meeting for August 28th to order. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings? Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Taser?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Worshipart?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next, agenda additions or corrections. Mr. Sutton, do you have?
Yes, I do need to remove resolution number 17.
Okay. That will be for another meeting, our next meeting, right? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with corrections?
So, support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worshipart?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Agenda is adopted. Next, we have a public hearing. It's nice to see so many people turning out for our meeting this evening. This is nice to see people coming out. This is for the proposal for the Hull Island project property. What do we have? Do we want to?
We have Mr. Freeman, first of all, and then we'll have something from Huron Pines.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to go into the public hearing?
Can you speak up, please? We can hear you.
Okay.
Good evening. Purpose for the public meeting or hearing tonight is in the process to move forward with an application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund for a grant to acquire the remaining portion of what is known as Hull Island, which is up for sale at this time. One thing, there is a sign-in sheet going through. If you could just continue to pass that through and put your contact information on there, we'll need that for the record. So, this parcel has over 300,000 feet, or 3,000 feet along the Asabo River and the Asabo Bayou frontage, and the goal is to keep it and improve it as a scenic preserve. The township is in a partnering agreement with Huron Pines to timely secure this property while the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund application is being completed. The application process consists of applying for the grant through the trust fund. This application is due September 6th. This will be reviewed this fall, and if approved, the township would get notification sometime by the end of the calendar year for funding in fiscal year 2024. So by the end of the calendar year, we'll know if we're successful or not in this round of application. With that, I'm going to call Julia Birch up from Huron Pines. She's going to go through the slideshow, which kind of gives some background to Huron Pines and the partnering that we're working with them on, and then the rest of the application process.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. Can folks hear me okay? Sound good? Cool. All right. My name is Julia Butch. I'm the Land Protection Coordinator with Huron Pines. And today I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about who Huron Pines is, the work we do, and our current project with Oscoda Charter Township. Which way do I point Maybe? Maybe yes, no?
Next slide.
Do I need to, yeah. There we go. Okay, perfect. Thanks, everybody. So Huron Pines is a conservation resource organization that serves to conserve and enhance northern Michigan's natural resources through healthy water, protected places, and vibrant communities. We're a certified 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we've been around for 50 years. This is actually our 50th anniversary. We have about 20 full-time staff people, a handful of seasonal crew, and we also host an AmeriCorps program with about 20 members across the state. Our board that helps guide our work is made up of 13 individuals from varying backgrounds and expertises. The photo here is just from our last staff meeting. There we go. Our service area encompasses about 12 counties in northeast Michigan, from Sheboygan down to Iosco, for a total area of 4.5 million acres. We have 2 offices, one in Alpena and one in Gaylord. I'm out of our Alpena office. And even though our official service area is these 12 counties, we frequently collaborate with federal, state, local governments, other nonprofit organizations, tribal nations outside of that 12-county service area. So our work is in 3 main program areas: land, water, and people. Our water program focuses on restoring waterways, improving water quality, and increasing habitat for wildlife. The photos on the lower right there show a new timber bridge that was built where a bad road stream crossing was there, so it was impeding fish habitat. And then the photo in the bottom center is actually from a stormwater quality planting we did last year at East Tawas State Dock. Our Vibrant Communities team seeks to build connections between people and the environment. We do that work in a couple different ways, by hosting educational events, creating community science and volunteer opportunities, and by working directly with community leaders to meet the local conservation goals. The photos in the upper right and center show some of our work there. The top right is from a community science program this springtime where we were measuring salamanders. And then the top center photo is from our AmeriCorps signature service project this past year in Gaylord, planting trees for relief from the hurricane last year. Lastly, our Protected Places team works to restore habitat, remove invasive species, and protect land for conservation purposes. Our stewardship team is responsible for a huge amount of work controlling invasive species and removing them across the service area. We also have a native seed program to collect and disperse native plant species at sites where invasive ones were removed. And the last part of our Protected Places program is our land protection program. So since 2018, our land protection program has been owning and managing properties for public use in perpetuity. By owning land, managing conservation easements, and sharing that land with the public, we are committing to the future of northern Michigan's land, water, and people. As of December 2022, we are proud to forever protect 5 nature preserves in northeast Michigan. Those preserves are shown in the center photo there. One's hiding behind the other, the K.R. Polshin Tract at Birdsong Bay. We've also, besides those 5 nature preserves, which total over 2,000 acres, we've also partnered with other organizations to help protect an additional 3,900 acres of land across the state. The vision of our land protection program is to both hold high-quality lands for forever use and to assist communities in creating community assets of their own. We work with local units of government to identify opportunities for land conservation and community development and recreation. And the way we do those assist projects varies on the needs of the community, the other partner organizations, and the funding that is available. I already talked about the middle photo there. The bottom right photo is of the Lake Huron Coastal Preserve sign, which I'm going to be talking about now. So one example of a previous assist project we did with a local community is the Lake Huron Coastal Preserve with Alabaster Township. So in 2019, a U.S. gypsum property, about 144 acres on Lake Huron, came up for sale as a development opportunity. Huron Pines saw this, and we saw an opportunity for protection and community asset development here. So we got in touch with Alabaster Township and started building a partnership with them for long-term protection of that site. In 2020, we purchased the property using a loan from the Conservation Fund, which is basically like a bank for nonprofit organizations, to take it off the market as a temporary measure. And then we worked closely with Alabaster Township throughout the trust fund process, fundraising for the local match, and engaging with the community to ensure the project's success. In summer 2022, Alabaster Township received notice that they were successful in their application, and then in December of last year, the property was officially transferred. The biggest success of this project is the continuing growth of Alabaster Township. Throughout this process, they were able to establish their first Parks and Rec Committee. They were able to pass a millage to get funds for the continued protection and preservation of that land. And they are continuing to work with us on long-term management strategies for the property. And that preserve has really become a destination for both visitors and locals. Here are a couple photos of the preserve and of events with the preserve. You can see that, there's over almost a mile of Lake Huron shoreline on that property. The photo in the upper right was taken after the transfer of the property, so you can see Alabaster Township staff and Huron Pines staff raising a glass to celebrate. And then in the bottom right is actually from July of this year when the township hosted their dedication ceremony for the preserve. You can see it was very well attended. So the thing we're all here for, I'm going to share a little bit more about the Hull Island property here. So Rick gave us some context already. This is a 42-acre property located near downtown Oscoda, adjacent to the Hull Island neighborhood and the Osable Bayou. It's at the dead end of Ojibwe Street on the southern end and Ogama Street at the northern end. These are just a couple maps showing relatively where it is. So there are a little bit more about the ecological features of this site. There are a high prevalence of wetlands. Most of these wetlands are what we think of as marsh, so like cattails and things like that. And there are also some forested wetlands. The wetlands aren't quite to the extent as shown in the photo on the left, as that data is from a model, but I'm estimating that about 50% of the property is wetland. The property is also home to pine and oak forest, a meadow/grassland, and a unique sandy kind of open area. As Rick said, it has over 3,000 feet of frontage on the Osable River and the bayou, and there are also locations along the river that would be suitable for access from the water. The property has very high potential for both wildlife and human recreation. The relative closeness of the property to Lake Huron and the available habitat there with the wetlands and the forests makes it a potential migratory stopover for bird species. The wetlands and forests are also highly valuable for other wildlife species such as small mammals, deer, fish, and amphibians. The location of the property, along with the topographical and ecological features, make it an ideal location for passive recreation, such as hiking, birding, kayaking, picnicking, photography, and more. The site also has very scenic views of the Osable River and is easily accessible from the land or the water. Here are some photos of the site. On the left there, you can see a view from the forest into one of the bayou channels in the background there. The photo on the right is from the northern end of the property, overlooking a marsh into the Osable River. The photo on the left is from the southern end of the property and could be a potential location for kayak and water access in the future. And the photo on the right is another shot of that pine and oak forest that I was talking about. And lastly, you can't see them too well up there, but here's some photos of some flora and fauna that currently reside at Hull Island. On the left, you'll see there's a little monarch caterpillar on that milkweed. The middle photo is of blue vervain, which is a native plant species. And the photo on the right is of a blooming hawthorn tree, which is highly desired by wildlife. So we'll be accepting public comment, questions, letters of support related to the project up to 5 p.m. on September 5th. Comments can be submitted to Rick, and his contact information is there, as well as on the Oscoda Charter Township website. And if you have questions about Huron Pines, other areas of our work, or the property in particular, you can reach out to me as well. Feel free to ask for business cards after this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any of the board have questions they'd like to ask before she leaves?
In part of the board packet, there was a couple of questions talking about whether the property was open to the public or not open to the public. There
Yes.
you go. Yeah, can you address those?
Yes.
'Cause it looks like you only answered the one question and really didn't answer the other one.
Yes, because I have
Okay.
the other answers in person.
Okay.
Huron Pines is currently seeking to purchase the property. We have not purchased the property yet, but these are some common questions that came up in our last project with Alabaster Township. So while the property is under Huron Pines ownership, if we are successful in getting that property, it will be closed to the public, but we will be offering opportunities for the public to get out there. And that is only while the property is under Huron Pines ownership. And the reasoning for that is we don't want to do anything with the property that would down the line not be okay for the township to do with the property. Just sort of respecting whatever wishes you guys may have for it. So that kind of same answer follows down to the other questions here. So while the property is under Huron Pines ownership, access is going to be limited. I would envision that as the project proceeds and the township is successful in the trust fund application and the property is transferred, of course, the property is open to the public. There will be recreation opportunities offered there. Touching on bullet point number 3, regardless of ownership, hunting with firearms will not be allowed at the property because of the proximity to the community.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Any other type of hunting? Like I know people had trapped back there, did some trapping and things like that, so no type of...
Not while under Huron Pines ownership. Other uses under township ownership would be up to the board and the community.
So let's say Oscoda Township is not successful in getting the MDNR grant and the property stays with Huron Pines. Would you look to partner with somebody else for that, or would you consider selling it, or would the Huron Pines keep that property?
If the township were not successful in the trust fund application, we're prepared to look into a couple different options. We don't know what the best option would be at this point in time. It would depend on what opportunities are presented there, especially with regards to other organizations.
So let's say we don't get the grant. Would this still fall under that it wouldn't be open to the public only if it was guided or different events or those type of things that you had to offer, or would it be open to the public then?
Yeah, so not knowing what we would be wanting to do with the property at that time, I can't 100% speak to what the answer to these questions would be in that scenario. But in general, Huron Pines, if we're protecting land, it's open to the public. And we try to grant as many passive recreations as the land allows.
What's a passive recreation?
So passive recreation is recreation that is not impacting the land. So if you're thinking of like ATV, ORV, that's not passive recreation. Hunting, passive recreation is something that has as minimal impact on the land as possible. So those activities like I listed, such as hiking, bird watching, biking can fit in there depending on the types of trails that exist, just those traditional recreation activities.
So having been through this a number of times with other communities with this type of property, I know you can't really give us a firm answer, but probability of success, low, medium, high, what would you cause it?
In the trust fund grant?
How much chances would you cause it?
I think Northeast Michigan, we do very well in these. When we have a strong application, which we will have a strong application, we're very successful in getting these trust fund dollars because we are in an underserved area and they know that. It's rare that they see, projects with this kind of collaboration and of this caliber, and that puts our probability, I would say, fairly high.
Steve, along with that, we were strongly encouraged to pursue this by the powers that be. Thank you. Can't mention any names.
Anyone else have questions, comments? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, next on our agenda is our public comments.
Public hearing, so does the public get to speak?
Well, I would think so, but we have public comments, so I guess,
Oh, I thought that during the public hearing, they had an opportunity to.
does anyone have a comment that you'd like to make on this proposal? Yes.
My name is Linda Stonek, and I've lived on Hull Island since 1986, okay? I'm not from this area originally, but I love Oscoda, and I want the very best for Oscoda. I've worked with Huron Pines on many occasions, and they are high quality, and I trust them implicitly. And I am totally, really in support of the situation. I think that having a park back there, when I first moved there, you could go back and you could use that property. It was it was railroad property, but everybody would go back there, and then it got sold and we couldn't go back there anymore. But that was, people could go to what was called the Sand Hill and we could, be there, and everybody enjoyed it. And so I love the idea of it being a park. I do have some concerns, and that's that I believe that the infrastructure in Hull Island is not that could support additional traffic. There's one bridge in, there's a neighborhood, there's lots of kids, there's those kinds of things. So I don't think the entrance to the park should be through Hull Island. I think that would be not the best plan, but I know that it's very close to back by the water treatment plant and a few other places, so there are other access points, and I would think that it would be better from a safety perspective and all kinds of other things. So technically, though, I must take issue with the fact that it's not really a bayou. I know that we've called it a bayou forever, and it really technically is not the backwaters of the Asable. That, in fact, it was originally the Asable River. And back in the late 1800s, the lumber barons blew it out, which nobody would ever let them do today, but they blew it out so that they could get the logs down better, and they used the Hull Island Bayou, for lack of a better name, to store their logs. So in recent years, lots of things have happened. So just as long as we're in the history mode. So back when I moved in 1986, we brought our 24-foot boat in behind my house. Okay, today I'm getting rid of my pedal boat because I can't use that back there. Okay, somewhere in the 1990s, however that might have happened, the flow was inhibited. Doesn't matter how, doesn't matter why, doesn't matter whatever, but there was no flow. Okay, and then shortly thereafter, there was the return to the natural flow of the river. So over time, what's happened is now there's a silt buildup, to the point that it's bad. It's green, it's stinky, it's mosquitoes, it's lots of different things back there. The smell, I've noticed this year in particular, was worse than normal. So I have been working on this since 1996. Those of you that know, or 1999, I'm sorry, misspoke myself there. So I really do care about this, and I really want it to be a better place for everybody. I think the park would be wonderful. Okay, I think that would be a great use of that. I wonder if through some of this grant money, if some of these other things could be addressed also. Because that land also abuts the Hull Island, actually it's technically an Oxbow, okay, but it abuts the Hull Island bayou, and so that problem with that bayou will exist for that property also. So the stagnated water and the mosquitoes and the stench will be right there. So I have tried since 1999 to try and reestablish some sort of flow. If that was part of that, I would be like there to help you 100%. So I think this could be a win-win for everybody. If we could get this to be a park and open, address some of those water issues that are there, hopefully we could eliminate some of the issues that have happened over the last few years. And I would be more than willing to work with Huron Pines and the Township Board and whomever might want to do this. We've got a lot of historical information, a lot of things that have happened. I would be, you know, like I said, I think I have the best interest of Oscoda in mind. I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about turning it into a park, but that property is beautiful, and I think it would be foolish for Oscoda to not move forward and work with Huron Pines. So, and I would be happy to answer any of your questions. Like I said, I've been around for a while and researched it quite a bit.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this project? Okay.
There is one more.
Did I miss somebody?
Thomas Anderson wanted to comment about the Hull Island project. Oh, are you done? Okay. Okay. Never mind
Okay.
then. For this part? No.
Hi, my name is Cindy Schwedler, and I live on the bayou, but on the other side. So it affects me too. I live on Lindholm Road, and I can see the bayou from my backyard. I can see Hull Island from my backyard. And I've worked with Linda Skodak for a few years on seeing how we can improve the water in the bayou. And I really agree with everything she said. I just wanted to say that we've worked with Huron Pines, and they've done a great job, and would be a really good partner for the project. So,
Getting some feedback down here? There we go.
Cindy, step a little closer to the microphone so they don't have to turn it up. There you go.
okay, sure.
There you go.
Huron Pines would be a great partner for anything you want to start. So, I'm behind the project 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for discussing this project? Okay, I don't see any other hands. Any board members have any comments?
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited. We've been playing, my dad played down there. A lot of our families have been playing down there for the last 50 years, and when those people bought it, they brandished weapons to keep us off of it. It was slightly disconcerting. And to see the township acquire it and turn it into a public park for all to use, as long as they don't drive on the island to get there, I am off. Yes!
Well, sometime you'll have to tell us how you really feel.
That says it all.
I think, you know, there's been some proposals, some people have come to the planning commission with proposals for development on Hull Island, back on that property. They were looking to purchase it, to put homes and different types of development back there. I think this will keep it as is for posterity. So it will stay the way it is for a very long time. And certainly would have a lot more traffic on Hall Island if they were to put more homes or development back there. So I think this is a better solution to that possibility. So if there's no other questions or comments, we'll move on to public comment.
Just one question. Ultimately, if that grant goes through,
Could you step the microphone, please?
if that grant goes through, who has ultimate say in what's going on there? Huron Pines or the township?
Will be the township.
It'd be the township.
We are applying for the grant to purchase the property from Huron Pines.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because that pretty much means that we won't ultimately know what's going to happen there until the grant is approved and what the township goes along with.
Yes. Anyone else? All right, next on the agenda is public comment. For this, we ask that you fill out a card. You'll have 4 minutes. Do we have a card?
I have one, that's Miss Kelly Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Kelly Brown from Oscoda. Couple of quick questions on the 911 to Jeremy. If you know a little, Trustee Spencer, if you know a little bit more about the functionality, like I got a text alert, which was great, when that boil of water alert, but I was nowhere near that area. But like Jeff was up in Lincoln and he didn't get one while he was gone or when he came back. So let's say that would have been something in our area and you were out for vacation or a meeting or what have you. How would that catch up with the person affected in that area? Do you know?
So, it's supposed to be geo-fenced.
Right, I remember you saying
And
that.
I don't know what happened, because we haven't been back to a meeting since we had that first boil water advisory, so I have questions for the 911 folks too, and I haven't had an opportunity to ask them that.
Yeah, if you could find out about that just from a functionality standpoint, I was just curious if it was something that, because we're on public water where we live too, so it possibly, what's that?
I'm sorry, if you have questions, would you please email them to me?
Sure, I'll send you a copy of them. The other thing I wanted to ask is, do we have emergency sirens in Oscoda?
Emergency what?
Sirens? Like if there's a tornado or fire?
There used to be one at the Township Hall, but I do not believe that is functional.
The only one I know of is is actually on Cruise.com's building, out on the old base, and I haven't seen, but it has never been used.
Is there a benefit to maybe in light of what happened downstate last week with all of that crazy weather in southeastern Michigan? And then last year it happened in Gaylord with the tornado. Everyone thought they were straight winds. But would that be something that would be worth maybe putting on the agenda and doing some investigation just to find out if it could be revived and also what cost it would be? I just think it's an added benefit if it's not enormous. It gives you peace of mind if something like that does happen. A lot of those tornadoes that occurred, my parents were in Plymouth and they had to go, they're in their 80s and they had to go in their basement for an hour and a half. So we don't have basements here, so it may take a little bit longer time for us to find coverage if there should be an incident like that, or evacuation like what happened with the fire 2 years ago out towards Lumberman's. So I was curious. Also, I did have one about the Hushra. Where's the water loss report? It's not in this month's packet, and they always come in the second meeting. So I was just wondering if we could catch up on that, because I also wanted to ask if the Supervisor Palmer could tell us during board comments, you had done a quick interview with, I think it's, I always get this wrong, WKBK? Is that right, or is it WBKB? I don't remember which one. Okay, BKB. And you had mentioned that there wasn't any additional cost due to the loss to the taxpayers. And I was just curious how those numbers or what information came about, because we've been talking about loss. So I just wanted to find out when you had given that interview, what that applied to. And the other question is, there is a purchase agreement in the packet for some property out on the Wordsmith district with regards to being $1,000 an acre, but it looked like it was previously listed for sale at $53,000. So was that an appraisal or an assessment? And if we go lower, are we setting a precedence for any other property out there? Just a consideration I was thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other cards?
No, I don't have any more.
Okay. Next is our consent agenda, the approval of minutes from the August 14th, 2023 meeting and the Air Force meeting on August 15th. I believe Mr. Sutton sent an updated version of those to all the board members. Had a chance to see those?
I didn't get a chance to see him, but I had a question on the regular meeting minutes or the consent agenda. The way it read, it was like you took the entire WEX bill off of to pay, and it was actually just a duplicate one. So maybe just add duplicate WEX bill.
Gotcha.
And then the only other thing under the Air Force one, it was under the discussion for the Loud Drive reimbursements. And I know that we had talked about reimbursing the original, I think there's like 15 people from when they first had the bad wells on US 23. I don't know if you remember that, Rick, or not. But what is happening with those people? I mean, was that part of the discussion too? Or are we still looking at reimbursing those people or just the Loud Drive people? So that's just my only comment.
The reimbursement that we're discussing with the Air Force is reimbursement from them to pay for the loan that we took out,
Okay.
to pay for the water main extensions when we didn't have access to any grants. So we had to take out a loan in the amount of about $1.4 million. And up until now, the Air Force has not been willing to, I brought this up several times at various Air Force meetings. Just recently, they've are actually considering looking at that and reimbursing us for those costs to pay off that loan. So we have to provide them some additional information. There's some parts of that loan that won't be reimbursable to us because it was for other things, but if we could get the Air Force, I don't think the township should have to go in debt because of the Air Force contamination. That has been my whole point this many years with them, and they're just now coming around to the idea that they will consider that possibility. So that's a positive for us with that. So any other questions on the minutes? Next is the finance, the payment of bills totaling $65,714.91. Prepaids from August 29th in the amount of $29,166.12. And the check run from August 22nd, $36,548.79. And the delinquent land bank. Anyone have any questions or comments on any of those? We did have our finance meeting this morning, and we went, Ms. McGuire, myself, Mr. Sutton, and Ms. Klein went through these and had a discussion. So, if there's no questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the subcommittee reports and project updates. I have the first one with the Airport Authority Board, and I could take up the whole meeting talking about everything that the airport has going on out there. I won't do that. But there are, they've been repaving the taxiways A, B, and C. That is completed. They have new lights that will go in the radiuses where that taxiway goes out to the actual runway. And there's, could turn that down, a little music to go with our meeting, might not be all bad.
Committee reports? Oh, my.
There is also a plan, and I'll let Ms. McGuire speak on this a little more, of the paving of Perimeter Road, because LDFA is going to be paying for that.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were gonna cover it and I wouldn't have a
No,
report.
no, I'll let you give that. The run-up shelter is in progress and is moving along well. That's gonna be a barrier where planes will back up into, and then they can fire their engines, and that jet engine blast won't go all across the airport, and it actually tears up asphalt and does all kinds of damage. So they're building that out there. That's in progress. I've mentioned in other reports that Car and Driver has asked for permission to come out there and do speed tests. Originally, that was going to be in mid-August. They've put that off because they want to use the new pavement that's out there for these taxiways. Because these are very long stretches of asphalt. It's very wide, and they will be bringing in cars like Lamborghinis, what were some of the others he said, but some pretty fast cars to do speed tests. This will be, now is proposed to come in October, early October. And they're going to make arrangements for it to be viewable by the public. You'll be able to come out there and watch these cars go really fast out there. That should be fun. They just finished up the Boy Scout weekend camp out there this past weekend. The weather didn't cooperate real well with them, but I talked to a couple of the Scout leaders, and they still had a really good time out there this year. So that is my report. Next is Planning Commission. Mr. Taser?
Yeah, we had a few cases. The case 108 was postponed. And then case number 111, 2023, was a final site plan for the Asabo Developments on Skeel Avenue. That plan was a motion to approve, and that passed. There was a public hearing for the Corridor Business District to amend it. But after review from our planner, this amendment to the Corridor Business District is being sent back to the Planning Commission because of being incomplete. It has to include definitions and standards for approval. And we reviewed our bylaws, just did a couple of grammar issues that were in there, corrected those. And the 2023, 2030 capital improvement plan was reviewed, and in that we approved moving allocation of funds from 2027 planning and zoning year to 2024 year. That was $35,000, which is the estimate for a complete rewrite of our 165 zoning ordinance. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Next, Mr. Spencer, the ZBA report.
The last CBA meeting was canceled due to no business, so I have yet to, haven't been to a meeting yet.
Okay,
Soon.
yes. Next, Ms. McGuire, the LDFA.
Okay, so LDFA, their big project that they have coming up is the end of September, first part of October. They're gonna be repaving Perimeter Road out on the former Air Force Base. Should be about a 2-week process. They are gonna be setting up detours out there, and it's on the far side of the airport, out where the alert pad is, and goes around where the big traffic is for Coletta and their maintenance shops and some of the other companies that are out there. We also, at our last LDFA meeting, approved our 2024 budget for the capture for this year, and we're also working on finalizing our numbers for the final numbers that we'll be capturing in the 2023 taxes that we'll be using during 2024. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Next, the EIC committee, Mr. Sutton.
No update, as our meeting is next week.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Spencer, the 911 board.
Let's see, the the last time we met, they only meet on even numbered months. So let's see here. And I submitted the report for the last board, the last board packet. It was relative, they're still working on a couple little issues that they've got with radio signals from the towers. And they're gonna keep cranking at that until they get it resolved to their satisfaction. And at the next board meeting, I'm going to have questions about this new alert system that was, I don't know if anybody knows, but we did give it a shot. We had an area of the township where I believe it was 9 residences were affected, and so we thought we'd give this new system a try. And it's good that we did because we found some problems, and we're going to be reporting those back. Sorry.
And would you also be asking, the question was raised about sirens?
Yes.
Perhaps?
Yes. Well,
Putting some
well,
sirens.
I don't know if that's 911. I think that's more of our township. That would be our police department, and we would have to interface with the weather advisory somewhere. But that would probably be our local police department, fire department that would deal with that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I would think it
All right. Next, Ms. Klein, Husser Board.
Okay, on August 1st, the Husher Board had a work session before the regularly scheduled meeting to discuss the operating standards and go over primary and secondary definitions. At the regularly scheduled meeting, that consisted of the audit presentation, which is in your packet for informational, a lighting proposal, which is part of the 2023 capital improvement, and a proposal to rehabilitate 2 low-service pumps, which was also a part of the 2023 capital improvement. We did have another work session scheduled for August 30th to continue the discussions on the operating standards, but that meeting has since been canceled. So we will resume September 5th as our regular scheduled meeting for September.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cummings, a RAB report.
Yes, so there are several updates on this. So the first meeting was held on Tuesday at Township Hall. It's a meeting with the Air Force and Township folks. That is a meeting where we usually touch base on several items before the public meeting on Wednesday, the 6th. The 15th meeting, as you find in your meeting notes, or the meeting minutes here from last time, there was a discussion about the Mission Street slip lining. There was a point that Bill mentioned earlier, as well as the water sewer usage, storm sewer usage. So these topics have been ongoing for quite a long time, years, with the Air Force, and we are making some progress with them, and in the end trying to, as Bill said, get them to pay for their share, get them to pay for their usage, so that we don't have to incur all the costs. The RAB itself on Wednesday, the 16th, was an extended meeting. It went another half hour beyond 8 o'clock. So it was a long meeting. It's recorded, and I highly recommend you take a look at it. It was lively. There was a very good number of questions asked by the RAB members. As I've mentioned in the past, we've been doing this RAB now for some years, and the quality of our RAB members has improved. We've really brought to bear with the Air Force great questions and a strong community interest. This is, I think, important for the effectiveness of the RAB. Anyway, I think it's well worth your time. It's hard to summarize 3.5 hours, but it is very well worth taking a look at. And that's, I guess, what I have for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, our engineering report, Mr. Freeman.
Good evening. Quickly through the water main projects. Phase 3 project with Caterman Construction is wrapping up. They've got a couple of well abandonments to clean up, finish up, and then they'll be hitting the cleanup and restoration throughout the project with the intent of trying to get that wrapped up shortly in the month of September. Phase 5, Elmer's is working on hooking up the water services at this time and then scheduling the well abandonments there. Working with few difficult properties as far as where the connections come in at and doing some adjustments there, but that's moving along fairly well. I think they will have a majority of those completed, again, by middle of September. Their cleanup and restoration will probably go into early October before we can get that all wrapped up. So with that, phase 3 and 5 will be, like I said, essentially wrapped up, cleaned up sometime in October of this year. Phase 6, we have a bid opening this Thursday at 3 o'clock at the Township offices for that project. And then we will be advertising the Township-wide service line project shortly after Labor Day. And we did receive this past week 120 meters in for those 2 projects. I think there's still a few more to be delivered, but at least now with that project, we'll have the material in place to completely complete the work as it's needed. We won't be waiting for meter pits or meter pits to come in. So the sanitary sewer project, the 2021 CWSRF contractor has completed their punch list. I'm verifying that with both Row Professional Services and F&B Operations. With that completed, we do have the odor control option has been reviewed and permitted by Eagle, and we are working on a change order with RCL to get that installed, and that'll wrap that project up. Good news on the 2024 CWRF, the clean water, the sanitary sewer side. The township has been awarded funding in the approximate amount of $15 million, of which 50% of that is principal forgiveness and a grant. So we've got $7.5 million that will go to finishing the pump station projects that were identified in the SAW grant back in 2017. We've also got some manhole improvements to make, along with lining of some of the larger pipes in the system, which will go a long ways to minimize the amount of groundwater coming into the system, which will minimize the chance of PFAS getting into the system. And then also $7.5 million roughly of that project is also for advanced treatment out at the lagoon site to minimize the PFAS that's continuing to come into the system, basically eliminating that so we're not adding to the beds that are out there that have taken the PFAS for years. So good news for the township. There's a couple of formal steps that we've got to go through yet on that. We'll need to review the rate structure to make sure that's all in place, which was done a couple of years ago with this in mind. So we don't think that there's going to be anything significant there, but we've got to go through that process. There's a statewide public hearing on it in September 12th, I believe. And then once that gets through with that process, we'll start getting the paperwork in the House to start moving that project along with, if it goes through and everything's approved, which again should be, construction on that would start sometime middle of next year. So, and we'll prioritize the projects accordingly. So, phase 3 trail, we had probably the last construction progress meeting today out there. Contractor is essentially done. He had a few minor items with one property owner. He was going to go back and reseed some areas that hadn't caught, even with the amount of rain that we've had. And all of the benches are in, trash receptacles are in. So we will be scheduling a final walkthrough with the Road Commission and MDOT sometime in September. And then I guess looking to the Trail Committee on whether they want to do some type of ribbon cutting ceremony or whatever. So So essentially wrapping that project up by the middle of September, you know, month and a half, almost 2 months ahead of schedule. And we found no snakes, or saw no snakes.
No snakes.
They might have been out there, but we didn't see any. Continuing to coordinate with F&B operations on several items. As I mentioned, you know, tracking down whenever we come up with a possible PFAS or PFAS contamination investigation. Michigan Rural Water is continuing to investigate the system for priority areas on water loss. It was earlier mentioned that water main break that affected 9 residents. Again, there was no hard and fast numbers, but we figured possibly up to 3 million gallons of water was lost during that process before the leak was identified, and that was due to loss of pressure and such. So we're also, under our current water main projects, we are removing some services that are connected under US 23 in Cedar Lake. Now that we have side roads that they can connect to the water main, and we're going back to the main and sealing those off at the main, again, to prevent any future water leaks that could develop in that area and not be easily identified. Per the last meeting I was at, I have contacted WTA with the moving the investigation on the facilities to the existing township site, evaluation of the existing building, going multi-stories, and eliminating the library and senior center from the footprint. So hope to have some updated information on that here not too long down the road. Everything else is just kind of ongoing as far as agreements, waiting for some results on some grant applications submitted. And Holiday Inn development, per one of the last meetings, it was brought up to look into the past correspondence and all of that as far as if and when the Holiday Inn development was informed that the township had water, either at the end of Michigan and at the park, or River End at the park. Looking through all the communication that I found and talking to the site development engineer, there was never any indication provided by the township to the developer that water was existing at either of those locations. And that is even evident by the final site plan that they submitted in April or May of 2022, that they had a note on there that the final connection, final verification of the ability to connect to township water was going to be required by a site investigation and site exploration of the existing water main, which we completed in the fall of 22. So, so that's that. I think that's basically my report.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
questions?
Any questions?
Hey, Rick, in regards to that last item, I'd like
Yes.
to have you attend the utility subcommittee meeting on September 11th. That's the monthly meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss that a little bit more in detail.
Utilities Subcommittee? Okay.
Any other questions?
Rick, did you say the the statewide public hearing was going to be December 12th?
No, September 12th,
September
I believe,
12th, okay.
is when it is, yes.
Thank you.
And that's just a formality that they go through to the list that the communities that they've funded. They just put that out there and kind of like, it's a formality that then they move it on to actually funding the local municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Next report is the Cedar Lake Improvement Board. Mr. Wisterbarth.
Yes, follow up for the last couple of meetings on this subject. I reached out to Ms. Klein, asked her to contact the attorney to get the proper procedure for the dissolution of the CLID. She has sent those comments to me. I do have some questions, and I need to get back with Ms. Klein with the attorney to just identify the process that I need to bring to the board. I'm hoping to have this all identified and ready for
has to be a public hearing, so that's a little bit of the issue that's outlined, that's how that works. But I'd like to have something on the agenda for this board to review with the public hearing at the last meeting in September.
Okay.
Are we gonna, I printed off, I reached out to Jamie at the county today. Tammy mentioned in our finance meeting this morning that she had, sent some information and she wasn't in favor of the disillusionment, so I reached out to her to see what information she had. And I have copies of it for everybody, or I can forward you the email, but of what she's talking about from their point of view.
Yeah, and I have her email and I have responded to it.
Were you gonna send it to the rest of us?
After I reviewed it, I was traveling last week when I came in, and I haven't had a chance to go through it.
Well, I have it, so I can send it out.
Well, as I'm the representative, Jamie, I would look, because I'm gonna have comments as well, because I also have documents from the county, legal documents, that was a privilege letter that they made public, that basically says they have no oversight of the CLIP, which makes no sense because they appoint two representatives to the CLIP. So yes, I have some issues with some of the county. I have not read her recent response, and I will do that. And
Yeah.
I will forward that to the board with my comments.
Yeah, I got that too, the privilege letter that was made public. She sent that as well.
Okay. Well, I will take care of it when I get a chance to go through her things, and you know what's being advised.
All right, thank you. Next is our superintendent report. First up is the row engineering invoices.
All right, your packet contains the following listed invoices from Row Engineering for services rendered. These invoices require Township Board approval.
Where do we have? Oh, okay. First invoice is 109,514.
I'll make a motion, we approve invoice number 109,514 for the exploration trail for the amount of $39,925 to be appropriated from 101-751-880-572.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbark?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 109,721.
Bill? Bill?
Yes.
Thank you, Tim. I would like to request appropriations, the appropriation of the $39,925. That fund line was originally budgeted for $300,000 for this year, and we have exceeded that amount. So there's another item, the Oscoda exploration trail invoices that I will also be requesting appropriations for. So
Okay.
if that could go along with Ms. McGuire's motion, or a separate, it would have to be separate from
Yes.
this.
So approve the payment and the appropriation?
Yes.
Okay. I amend my motion.
Do you-
Voted on, I think it's too late.
Oh, well.
We can make a new motion.
I'll make a motion to make appropriations to Fund 101-951-880-572 to cover the $39,925.
Support.
I thought I covered them both. Oh, okay. I thought my motion covered both of them.
The money from the appropriation.
To approve the payment and appropriate, I thought that's how
Oh,
I
you
said it.
included appropriation?
I did.
Yes,
thought
I
she
said
just
I said to
appropriate.
pay the invoice and appropriate the money to the fund.
Okay.
I thought it was
missed that
just
part.
appropriate
Okay.
the fund.
That's okay.
Do you have that in
Unless
minutes?
there's a
Thorough.
procedural problem where we need two motions.
It normally is two.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
it's fine, I just wanted to make sure that was in there.
Yeah, she did say appropriated from the appropriation fund in the 517.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I thought I said approve the payment in the amount of.
I just
and then
wanted to make
approve-
sure they're both in there. Approve the payment and the
Maybe,
appropriations.
either way, it doesn't matter to me.
As a legal
So-
procedure, though, I think it has to be two separate motions.
Yes.
I make the motion that we appropriate.
Well, I already made that
Already
motion.
done.
Oh, that's
Motion by
support.
Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Taser to make the appropriations to Fund 101-951-880-572. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. All right. Now invoice 109-721.
I'd make a motion to pay invoice 109-721 for as-needed services in the amount of $710 from account number 101-299-821.000.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 109-726.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 109-726 for wastewater pump station improvements in the amount of $637.50 to be paid from CWSRF after reimbursement is available.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 109-741.
Make a motion to approve invoice 109,741 for water system improvements phase 2 in the amount of $10,177.50 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available. Phase 3, sorry, amended, phase 3. Thank you.
Support. Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 109-748. I'll take this one since it's a big amount. Make a motion to approve paying row invoice 109-748 in the amount of $85 for Township 2024 SRF application to be paid from CWSRF once funds are available in our account.
Support, Spencer.
Have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 109-753.
I move that we pay invoice numbers 109-753 water system improvements for $19,882.50 from C2R2 after reimbursement is available.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Worcester. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the request for the Easy Go golf cart. Ms. Klein?
Okay, your packet contains an updated price quote for the previously approved EasyGo golf cart for DPW. After approving the purchase in the amount of $5,000 at the July 24th meeting, staff were informed that the golf cart requested had already been sold. Our DPW supervisor has since found a 2017 used EasyGo with a price increase of $450. Therefore, I am bringing this back to the board for reapproval. I would request that the board approve the revised amount for the 2017 used EasyGo in the amount of $5,450 to be paid from Fund 101-751-980.100.
That was originally budgeted for $6,000, wasn't it? 6,000?
I think it was budgeted for 8.
8.
Yes.
So we're still well within that?
Yes.
Just a curiosity, what happened? Did we not act quickly enough on the quotes to get approval?
No, the next day, Mr. Hamlin reached out and it had already been sold. So, the next day, right after approval. He had just happened upon it, and apparently they sell rather quickly with the used ones. So this time, he asked her if she would hold it till after today, so,
That's reasonable.
yes.
The only other question I've got is it says a price increase of 400 in my packet.
I know, that was my mistake. Mr. Palmer pointed that out, that's why I didn't read that way.
I was wondering, like, well, how do I would make a motion to approve the expenditure of $5,450 to purchase the 2017 used E-Z-Go golf cart from the account specified by the superintendent.
Support, Sutton.
And just to note, this is a year newer cart than the previous one, so. We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Taser.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes, motion passed. Next is the awning storage.
We have to go back to the Iosco Exploration Trail invoices.
Which one?
Iosco Exploration Trail
It's first in
invoices.
the packet and then
Top of the list there.
It was,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
There was one agreement.
How did I miss that? Oh. Because I put that first. Okay.
Ready? Okay. All
My
right.
mistake.
Oscoda Township, through the Road Commission, received a TAP grant for roughly $2 million for the Iosco Exploration Trail project. This grant, as you know, requires an 80-20 split, with 20% being a local match. Your packet contains the 4th and 5th invoice from the Road Commission for the township's local match portion in the amount of totaling $111,812.67. I would ask that the board approve 2 actions with this item. Number 1, to approve the payment totaling, with both invoices, I should say. First invoice is $98,575.56, and the second invoice totaling $13,237.11, for a total of $111,008. Oh my God, $111,812.67 towards the Iosco Exploration Trail, to be paid to the Iosco County Road Commission from Fund 101-751-880.572. And number 2, approve appropriations to Fund 101-751-880.572 in the amount of $111,812.67.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve payment to the Oscoda County Road Commission in the amount of $111,812.67 as the township match for the IET, and funds to be paid from Fund 101-751-880.572.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser.
Yes.
Mr. Worcester.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes, motion passed. Next, I will make a motion to make,
Is there any discussion?
oh, okay, yeah.
No. Sorry.
Let's discuss it.
Sorry.
Sure.
I just caught this, I didn't notice it earlier when I was reading the board packet, but approve the appropriations to the fund. Where's the money coming from to go to?
It's gonna have to come from the general fund.
Do we know where we're at in the general fund?
I don't have access. So,
Okay.
I will discuss it with you and we can go from there. We've
Okay.
never had to actually describe it coming
Is it-
from a fund,
Are we
so-
using the grant money that we received for this as a match? Or-
I think we have to pay it first, and then we get the,
Yes.
the grant
We get
money.
reimbursement after we pay it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was
Yes,
looking for. like,
because
we're
we
just
do
not
have money
taking it and
going
spending-
in.
Okay,
It just has to be moved to the outgoing.
and then we'll get it back.
Yes,
Yes.
comes
Okay,
right back,
that's all I wanted
yes.
to know.
Yeah, we have several grants that we've been
Thank you,
appropriate
yes.
for. Yes.
That's a lot of money, okay.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to, any other discussion, questions? I'll make a motion to approve appropriations to Fund 101-751-880.572 in the amount of $111,812.67.
Support, Sutton?
Just an amendment to that motion to be considered, as we discussed.
From the general fund at the end.
Well, from the general fund in agreement with Ms. Klein, treasurer and clerk.
Okay. Yes. Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wishkabar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the awning storage.
Okay, so in your packet is an invoice from JCL Michigan Properties LLC for our record storage at Awney Medical Center. This is a slightly over a year's space rental, which I am bringing back to the board for approval. We originally approved the lease. The space was reduced quite a bit, as pretty much to half. And so thus the reason it went from $1,200 a month to $600 a month. So, I figured since the dollar amount was so high that I should bring it to the board to have you look at it and know that it will be much cheaper next year, unless we can shrink that footprint even more.
Do we have a plan to shrink that footprint at this time?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I have quite a few offices combined. My office's storage is also Old Orchard Park and the assessor and the water department and EIC. So Josh's office, I think, is the next largest, and my previous office that I did have for storage is only half used by zoning, so. But we still have one large move to make, so.
Is the planning commission adding all of that into their plan for facilities, for lots and lots of storage? Just out of curiosity?
That should be in the plan that, the needs assessment should have included that.
I thought it was well, in the storage.
Tammy, I don't know if it'd be much room, but I know that with the treasurer's office, it's got like two big rooms, and I really don't need that much space.
I will take you up on that because the old OED offices is what needs to come. That's the final big batch
Okay,
of items, so I'll probably take you up on that.
okay.
Is a lot of that stuff able to be digitally stored, or does it all have to be in paper?
A lot of it, like in the OED office, a lot of it's maps, very large maps. So,
Figured I'd ask. All right, thank you.
but I will do as much as I can. I mean, if it helps, save money.
And we have a lease in place,
Yes.
and how long is that for?
It's annually, so,
Renews annually?
yes.
Okay.
Did you say this went up from prior or no?
Pardon me?
Did you say that the price went up?
No, it went down. It went down, yes. It's now like $600 a month for the space.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve the rental space cost of $10,578 even for record storage at the Ani Medical Center to be paid from
236-266-890.000.
890.000.
236-266.
Ends in 266?
No.
Whichever account number the superintendent specifies. Go ahead.
236-266-890.000.
Thank you. Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Let's see. Next off is a offer to purchase property.
Your packet contains a letter of intent from Nathan Self-Storage LLC for the purchase of 2 township properties located on the former Wordsmith Air Force Base. The combined parcels represent a total of 15.75 acres, zoned industrial. The township makes no representation that utilities are to the site, only nearby. I would ask that the board consider approving the sale of 2 parcels and instruct the township attorney to negotiate the terms of a purchase agreement with the buyer for final board approval, or alternately, the board may reject the LOI.
Howdy, I'm Nathan, I own Perimeter Road Storage. This parcel actually butts up on the north side of my business, so we'll be able to combine them together. Now I'm looking to purchase this property to further invest into the community as well. And that's pretty much it. And the price, Kelly Brown said about $1,000 an acre. If you look at the clear cutting costs, it's around $1,000 to $7,000 for an acre to clear cut woods, depending on how dense it is. And if you would take like the average, say 3,800, it comes out to about $60,000 to clear cut that whole property almost, probably even more. That's just a rough number. So. That's pretty much it.
Any comments for the board, questions?
You still planning on putting storage facilities out there?
Yeah. Not on this parcel, it's probably be something different, but I don't want to disclose what it is until see if we get it or not.
Well, I want to know. You got me curious now.
So the total price, what did we have it listed for before?
54,000,
And the total price he's offering now then?
16,000,
16?
yes,
And we were selling it for 54 before.
yes.
We're willing to negotiate as well, so, on the price.
We actually sold it previously for 54.
Correct, yes.
I guess my question is, I'd like to know a little bit more on intended use, because we had a couple of these come up. And we were really trying to save property in that area towards manufacturing space and creating jobs.
Okay. My purpose for that property is to build buildings for businesses to come into town and set up shop there. Because if you look around Oscoda, we don't have the infrastructure for, like, say, someone from downstate to move up and they put like a plasma cutting facility up here or something. They'll be able to go in to here, rent it from us, and they can put everything they need in there, be able to work out of there and have an office space and everything. If that makes sense.
We've looked over your idea, because with the zoning of that area, and you're sure that it's going to fit?
Yep.
What you
To the best of my
whatever your idea.
belief, it looks like it'll fit.
There's no infrastructure out there?
You don't know.
It's nothing but trees.
It says it's nearby, so it's.
There's a gas line that actually runs like right between the property, so, and it runs out somewhere, but there is a gas line that runs through there.
But no water or sewer,
I don't think so.
so you would have to pay for that.
Yeah. And we have to run water to our perimeter road storage as well, so.
I think there's sewer and water near that property. I
Right.
think there's near there.
I personally would like to see more information, and I don't want to sell it for less than what we sold it for before. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think we had it advertised for 54, we sold it for 54. I'm with Ms. McGuire, I would want to see an offer at least 54,000. This property, there's a couple of items in this agreement you have here.
Bill, I just a little closer to the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Where it says the earnest money deposit, you have 1,600, but then in parentheses it says $1,000. So, you know, that would have to be,
Corrected.
of course, that would be based on a sale amount of 16,000. And then also, purchaser's conditions that you're placing on the township. The first one is a request for additional funding to purchase will require Oscoda Township or OTWP to clear cut the parcel. We would not be doing that. We would not clear cut the parcel.
Okay, that's more of, say we didn't buy it, if you guys clear cutted it, basically. Like, say, you still own the property and clear cut it, then we'll pay a higher amount. But since it's not clear cut, we have to go ahead and get it clear cut. That's why we brought it down to 16,000, because it's gonna cost a lot to clear cut that land, and the grading on that land is really low, and it needs to be brought up as well. It's a lot of work to get it to a development stage, so it's,
If the role was reversed, would you clear cut it?
yeah,
Or would you sell it as is, and if you don't want it, then don't take it?
we would clear cut it. If we got it right now, we'd clear cut it. So,
No, I mean, it's, yeah.
Right.
It doesn't sound like the board is willing to go lower on the price. So if you're willing to, I would make a motion that we, offer it to Nathan Self Storage LLC for 50,000 even, and clear cuttings on you. I don't know if I get support for that or not, but there it is.
Support.
And to have our attorney draft a purchase agreement.
I would amend my motion to include it, having the attorney draft a purchase agreement, yes.
I'd still like to see what we're gonna do with the property and have something more in writing.
I'm with Jamie, because to me, anything out there close to the situation where we have a lot of jobs, growth opportunities, I want to see what's going to add to
What's
the
there?
marketplace here in Oscoda Township as far as employment, basically growing businesses. I understand. Thank you for your comments. I need to see.
that's fine.
That is a requirement now in our ordinance, that you provide any property that the township sells, the purchaser has to provide what they plan to do with the property specifically. And then if that doesn't happen within a certain length of time, the township can take the property back.
Okay.
So I think we need a more detailed proposal here. So I would suggest perhaps resubmitting it, although we have a motion
You
here.
do, you have a motion and support.
Wouldn't the Planning and Zoning Commission be, would take care of any site plans and anything to make sure that it's well within?
They would have to follow all the rules of the zoning.
Yes,
For
but
the business.
that would be.
Intended use of the contract.
Yeah, intended use, so even if we sell it right now, then, could I amend my motion to include, if we can't come to terms on what we're gonna put out there, that the township takes the property back and the purchase price is moot?
That
There-
works.
There would be a pre-development meeting involved in that.
I think, Jeremy, you'd have to have all that spelled out, and send it LOI before we can take any action like that, because we're just giving away rights if we do that.
I think we need to not approve this LOI and have them come back with another one.
All right.
Thank you.
I call the question then.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing a different price. I'm interested in understanding more what you want to do with this. I think you understand now what we as a board in the township require. I think this is a great idea. I'm welcoming your second version of the LOI.
Well, Mr. Spencer had made a motion. Was there support for that motion?
Yes, Mr. Taser supported it.
No, it's been seconded.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
No.
Ms. McGuire?
No?
Mr. Cummings?
No.
Mr. Sutton, no. Mr. Palmer?
No, motion failed.
See you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we do want to see you in 2 weeks with the new one.
I think we have to still,
The new proposal.
turn down his LOI though, too. 'Cause we-
Officially, you're correct, yeah.
Yeah,
It's either postponement or return, but
Right.
officially it's a purchase, so we have to turn it down.
yeah, so we need to turn down his LOI also. Well, I guess Bill's running the meeting.
I would make a motion that we, turn down the LOI from Nathan Self-Storage LLC.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Worcester, support by Ms. McGuire to turn down the LOI that was presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Let's see, next up is the fire department, creating a part-time position.
Okay, now during a previous budget work session, Fire Chief McGregor had discussed the possibility of creating a clerical administrative position on a part-time basis for Ms. Tanny Briggs DeKett. This position would be for 16 hours per week at a pay rate of $17.19 an hour. Ms. DeKett has been performing these duties for quite some time without compensation. I would ask that the board consider approving the creation of the position of clerical administrative secretary for the fire department, hiring Ms. DeKett for this position, 16 hours per week at a pay rate of $17.19 an hour. Wages to be taken from an administration line from Fund 206 to be created by the clerk. Which normally 206, just a little side information, is fire equipment fund, but during the last millage, it was also created for administrative costs as well. So that would be acceptable out of that line. Pardon me?
How much is in that fund currently?
I went over and looked at it with Jamie. There's enough there after, even with the fire truck purchase at this time.
To cover the fire truck as well as this administrative.
Fire
position?
truck's already been paid for. Yep.
And she's been doing this for quite some time without compensation.
Yes.
Well, I think the point is with our new policies of turning in claims to consumers for down power lines and insurance companies and all the things that we haven't been filing for in the past, it creates more work to tabulate all these things to get them put together.
But at the same time, the additional funds that are going to be incurred from those administrative tasks will almost pay for the position, if not more than that, wouldn't it? Depending on how many runs they go on per year.
Yes, yes.
We haven't had a whole year to figure, to
Right.
balance that out. That was the whole discussion when we approved that. We were going to monitor it
So we'll start at
and to
16
see,
hours.
and see where we're at. I mean, with all of it, with the fire runs increase and all those things that we discussed. We wanted to wait to see what the insurance total money that came in to make sure that we were offsetting all those extra costs with the fire department. Does Tanny do any of the fire runs? Does she go on any fire runs, and does she get the fuel stipend or the hourly for the fuel?
She does not get the fuel stipend or the fire run money. I don't believe she goes, and if she does, it's not very often.
Okay.
Just admin now.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, did the hourly rate get approved by the clerk's office? Because we usually do a little review of whether they align with the other hourly rates. We usually end up getting into little arguments about this at some point, and I didn't hear it this time, so I was wondering.
Yeah, no, we came in and looked at that comparison to our other ones and for the worksheets that we go over, so that's acceptable in our opinion.
All happy. Good. All right.
Is there going to be, what happens if the millage doesn't renew in 2025? Will this be readdressed, or is that an understanding that, yeah, that this, if we don't get that money, then this
Definitely.
paid position disappears?
Yes.
That would go away.
Okay, just checking.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the clerical administrative secretary position for the fire department and hiring Miss Deckett for the position at 16 hours a week at a pay rate of $17.19 per hour, and the wages will be taken from the administration line from Fund 206.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the art sculpture.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to ask you to disregard the second memo in the packet. So your packet contains a memo from the librarian, Miss Robin Savage, for the purchase of a sculpture for the south side of the library. The request is to have Moran Ironworks student body create a mythical creature reading a book. The project estimate is between $10,000 and $12,000, which I would ask for a not to exceed 15, and requires a 20% down payment for materials, which originally was planned for $12,000, but I think Robin's gonna address that at $3,000. At any rate, I would ask that the board consider first the approval of the sculpture project, next to approve the down payment, and lastly, approve the project to be paid for with the township's ARPA fund 101-000-528-001. And Robin is here if you have any questions.
I do have a question. Can you tell us where the ARPA funds come from?
Where they come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, is it part of our, is it just part of our budgeting process, or is it coming from some other outside source?
No, it was budgeted for, and yes, and it has to be set to be spent by 2024. So,
And how much was set aside?
we got a total of $728,000, and we have not spent very much of that at all.
We're just.
We've spent it on, the ox, bathed ox, and we spent it on, contribution to the Iosco Exploration Trail. So we spent 37,000 there, and I believe close to 24,000 on the ox,
Yes.
so,
There's like $600,000 left.
yes,
Has to be earmarked before the end of the year.
yes. By
Yes.
2024.
Well,
Has to be allocated by 2024.
Get all crazy,
Yeah,
Jeremy.
2020.
Spent by 25.
okay.
And spent by 2025.
Yeah.
So,
For some purpose.
What kind of mythical creature?
So I'm going to leave it up to the student body. Each year, the school up in Onaway takes on a project for their student body. And so this fall, they're looking to take on our project. And so having an art degree myself, I'd like to give them the liberty of coming up with their own creature. I have a little inside information. We're leaning toward a dragon sort of gargoyle thing. Mm-hmm.
But that's not set in stone.
No. Set in metal, rather.
That's set in steel.
Is it gonna be painted or just?
Nope, it's gonna be raw material. 50% of it will be recycled material. And Mr. Sutton, thank you for the idea of where to go for this.
I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
I like it. I like art. Everybody, you know, we've been doing a lot of art projects in town, and to have a cool sculpture out in front of the library of a mythical creature reading a book, it can do nothing but encourage the children to do the same. So
I appreciate that.
I would make the first motion to authorize 10 to 12,000, not to exceed $15,000 for purchase of this art project.
Support.
And I'm sorry, and it will be paid for from the Township's ARPA Fund 101-000-528-001.
Still support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
I would also make a motion to approve a $3,000 down payment for the said project from the same account, ARPA Funds 101-000-528-001.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
And what was the third one?
The third one was
Entire project to be paid
to
by the
approve it out of Fund 101-000-528-001,
Do
or
I
dot
need to
0.
make the third motion since I made the other two?
It's just saying what fund to take it from, to use ARPA funds.
Even though you referenced it because it's coming from our agreement, you missed that
Just-
last motion.
I'll make a motion to make an official statement that the money to pay for this project will be coming from the Township's ARPA Fund, account 101-000-528-001.
Support.
And when
We
it's
have-
all,
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Worcester. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Thank you very much, Board.
Yes, thank you. We look forward to seeing that gargoyle or whatever it is out there.
Just a comment of, if anyone hasn't been to the Moran Ironworks and their sculpture park, it is really something to see up by Onaway. I highly suggest it's worth the trip.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Nice.
Pretty impressive what they think.
Next up is the pump station replacement project.
All right, your packet contains the 16th pay request in the pump station replacement project in the amount of $142,068.75, leaving a total of $3,162.80 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 16th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $142,068.75 to be paid from the CW SRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
I think just a small correction, I think it's supposed to be 78 cents,
You're right, 78 cents.
the amount due on the application. Questions? Comments?
I would make a motion to approve the RCL construction invoice, 16th pay request in the amount of $142,068.75 to be paid, 78 cents to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Support. Sutton.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. And this has been a long project, and it's nice to see that it's finishing up. There's only $3,162 left to pay here. Next is the Phase 3 water payment.
Okay, your packet contains the fourth pay request in the Phase 3 water main project in the amount of $226,899.90, leaving a total of $221,404.60 remaining on this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the fourth pay request from Caterman Trucking in the amount of $226,899.90 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve the fourth pay request, Caterman Trucking Incorporated, in the amount of $226,899.90 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the resolutions. The first-
So, the resolution 2023-16 is just basically authorizing the application to the MDNRTF for property acquisition for Hull Island. Property acquisition for Hull Island.
So this is a resolution we need to make in order to go for the
Yes,
to
the
apply
board
for
has
the
to
MNRTF
authorize the
grant.
application.
Yes. Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2023-16.
Support. Spencer.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Now, this is where it gets confusing. The resolution 2023-17, we've removed. That will come up at our next meeting. So the next resolution is 2023-18.
So this resolution is authorizing to hold a public hearing for truth and taxation.
And this is something we do every year because of the tax code. It automatically, we would lose mills on our tax rate, and this merely brings the tax millage back up to where it has been for the last 15 or 16 years, I believe.
At least, yeah.
At least, yeah. We've been fortunate enough to maintain the same millage here in Oscoda for at least 15 years or more. But this is simply a formality that we have to do every year so that we don't drop down below the millage that we've been using for a number of years.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-18 regarding truth and taxation public hearing.
Support. Sutton.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is our police chief notice of retirement.
So unfortunately, Chief David has decided after 40 years, he would like to retire and sell guns. So
My first response was, let's just say no.
I keep telling him, and we'll
But
supply
then-
him another 5 years.
On reconsideration, 40 years of service to the community, I guess he's entitled to a retirement. So I don't know if I don't think we have to make a motion to approve,
Just
Yeah, we just-
accept his retirement.
but we make a motion to accept his retirement and post for the position.
Yes.
I will make that motion.
Bill, she listed the date of his retirement.
And the effective date of his retirement is October 14th, 2023.
Support?
Just from my own personal knowledge, do we have to post outside because as a,
As an
Because it's
equal
an
opportunity
admin
employer,
position.
yes.
okay.
As an equal opportunity employer, yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Sadly, the motion passed.
We will be doing something for him before he gets out. Or maybe not.
Well,
Goes out with a siren.
I don't know.
So for anybody that was sleeping during the meeting, welcome back. You're awake now.
I'd just like to thank Chief David. He's put a lot of years of service in here, and his work ethic and everything else that he's done for the township, I highly recommend it. But I think for Mr. Freeman, just to let you know, his other job is to keep posting pictures of Mississauga rattlesnakes that are close to our property that we own. So it makes Kathy and I quite nervous every time she sends me one of these things.
Next up on the agenda, I don't know if my mic is, I guess my mic isn't working.
I don't think any of them are working, frankly.
You can use
That's
mine.
okay. If I could have Ms. Savage come up to the podium.
Did it? I don't see anything.
That's all.
That's irritating.
Hey, Bill?
She wouldn't be on stage.
We would like just like to thank Ms. Savage for her dedication to this community and for bringing in so many opportunities for education and entertainment, experiences for our residents and families. She has actually turned the library into a community center for activities and learning. And in conjunction, she spent her time on the Art and Placemaking Committee, which recently was responsible. She was responsible for the restoration and painting of her historical Paul Bunyan. In case anybody wasn't aware of that, there was a lot of concern in the community when Paul disappeared for a short time, but he was in good hands with Ms. Savage here, being restored and painted, and I think we all can agree that it looks much better. So thank you. So on behalf of myself and the entire board and the entire community, thank you for everything that you do for our community. And we just wanted to give you this certificate of appreciation for
Oh, that's lovely.
for all the work that you do, and to let you know that we appreciate everything that you have truly transformed the library into a center for activities out there. So
Wonderful.
thank you
Mr.
very
Palmer.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, board.
blessed with the best librarian ever. Right. Ever.
Okay.
We're on the LDFA appointment.
Next up, I received a letter in my mailbox from someone that's interested in joining being appointed to the LDFA board. But I think before we can approve this, we need to have an application filed by her. I think Ms. McGuire was working on that, contacting her. But I asked to have it put in the packet just so the board members were aware of it. And hopefully we will get an application from her for consideration at our next meeting.
Along those lines, I'll make a motion to postpone this item until we get her application.
Okay.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbark?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next on the agenda is public comment. Anybody that would like to make a comment? We have 4 minutes. Please come up to the podium and state your name and, yes.
Go ahead. Hello, my name is Gina. This is Belinda, and we are here representing the Downtown Beautification Committee. And for those of you that don't know, the DBC was started back in 2001 as a group of volunteers that wanted to show patriotism and also to help, obviously, beautify the community. And one of the activities that they did was a scarecrow competition, decorating, and we are bringing that back this year. So on behalf of the DBC, we're here to share that with the community. We are actually extending it this year. It's not just going to be for businesses. It'll also be for individuals or family groups or like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, any grouping that wants to be involved. We are going to be asking businesses downtown that if they want to participate, that they decorate out in front of their business. We've also gotten permission from Tammy that we can assign groups in front of the vacant buildings in town, so we won't have vacant buildings out front, at least for the moment. And we are actually going to be doing a cash prizes for second and third and honorable mentions, and we are going to be letting the community vote on Facebook for the winners of each of the areas. And we've got a whole lineup for when we're going to be starting and doing all that. I'm going to actually pass over to Belinda and we'll keep going.
Okay, so we're going to launch it next week, and registration is going to happen from September 6th through the 26th. So people will have like almost a good month to register. Registration is going to be super easy. We're going to hopefully put something in the newspaper that will show people that they just need to email, let us know where their display is going to be and if they need a location. We definitely want to encourage families to decorate in front of their homes and really just like ramp up the neighborhoods. And we'll create a map. It'll be kind of like looking for the Christmas lights, but this year we'll be looking for the scarecrow displays. 2 rules: you must have at least 1 scarecrow in your display, and it must be family friendly. And if anyone has questions about that, they could definitely let us kind of know what the parameters are, or ask for approval if it meets those standards. There's going to be cash prizes and a prize package. So did you already say that? First, second, and third, and then the honorable mention. And then, like I mentioned, the map, but we're just really, really excited. This was first started by Marianne Bartels and the OGs of the DBC, so we really appreciate everything they did, and she just left such a great legacy in the community with the downtown beautification. So we were here today, we just wanted to let the community know that it's coming, and we're just really excited about it.
Well, we are also, we're going to be doing the cash prizes for the first, second, and third places, but we are also going to be taking donations. So if any businesses or individuals want to donate something to be part of the prizes, we are more than happy to collect those and just want to make it a fun thing for the community.
Yeah, because I don't know if everyone realizes downtown beautification, we raise our own funds, so we'll take anything. With good reason. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'm curious about the family-friendly scarecrow criteria, but we can cover that another time.
Like I said, you can email us or call us, and we can tell you if it meets the parameters.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work.
Any other? Yes.
Hi, Kathy Woosterbarth. I'd like to thank you for recognizing Miss Robin Savage as the best library director in all of Michigan, maybe the United States, actually, in terms of her credentialing also. So I'd also like to give you the board an update on the happenings in the RAB. And I'm going to bear with me because I'm going to read a very short article that summarizes some of the backstory and the significance of what has happened, in the last week with the RAB. It's in regards to Tony Spaniola, who you may have heard me mention before. He's our actually our most influential and probably most effective leader that we have. Certainly in the NOW group, but probably in any national group that is addressing PFAS throughout the nation. So we're very lucky to have him. And we also have the best reporter of PFAS in the nation. His name is Garrett Ellison, and he reports with MLive. And he wrote a story about what happened last week with the RAB addressing PFAS. And it is titled, "At Long Last, Wordsmith Community Gets a Win." Garrett says, "I've been writing about PFAS at the former Wordsmith Air Force Base in Oscoda for 7 years, and I've never heard Tony Spaniola sound so optimistic before." Spaniola is an attorney who owns property on Vanetton Lake, which abuts the base. He's also a leading advocate at the national level for stronger regulation and faster cleanup of forever chemicals. He's been in Washington, D.C. a lot this year and finally notched a win. Through direct advocacy with members of Congress and top Biden administration officials in the White House and Pentagon, Spaniola helped convince the Department of Defense to flip the script on PFAS cleanup at military bases, including the former ones like Wordsmith. Rather than conduct years and years of testing and study before selecting a final cleanup plan to address the whole base at the same time, which is the process the Air Force has been working through for years, to the consternation of locals, the DoD in July directed military branches to explore interim cleanups to tackle specific hotspots in the meantime, which is what this board supported, which I appreciate. It's exactly what Spaniola's group, Need Our Water, has been pushing, a plan to stop the bleeding while the big final cleanup remedy is developed. Put a tourniquet on it so the exposure pathways, the waterways, the fish, aren't being contaminated, Spaniola described to him last week. Keep it within the confines of the base and then take the longer term approach. It's common sense. Now that now national policy and Wordsmith is the first place it's being implemented, which is amazing. We're so fortunate. Last week, the Air Force reversed its course and agreed to install 2 interim cleanups after balking at calls for doing just that from local advocates and state regulators. So Tony's optimistic about the stopgap remedies, and he feels that there's now a need for a sense of urgency and action that's being communicated from the top of the chain of command on down. And if that holds, Michigan's first PFAS contamination site, which is us, might finally be entering an era of accelerated action after years of endless delay. So, very good news.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could, I'd just like to comment, Ms. Wusterbarth is being humble here. She talked about Mr. Spaniola, who has been very active in the community and in Washington. But Ms. Wusterbarth herself, informing the NOW group, the Need Our Water, and her trips to Washington and meeting with our congressional leaders, has also been a force in this township for getting this action from the Air Force. So I think we should acknowledge her as well. Other public comments? Anyone else?
Kelly had it right.
Yes.
Don't lose your phone.
Kelly Brown, Oscoda residents. I just had a couple of items that I thought were opportunities. I did want to thank Trustee Cummings. He continues to update, and I continue to communicate with him on some functionality with regards to our website. One thing that did come up that I reached out to him and discussed was I was looking to get the information that was relayed prior about the Parks and Rec Subcommittee. There was supposed to be a resolution. And I tried to search document on demands. I couldn't find anything, so I went in and talked to him after I sent a FOIA request. And where the opportunity exists is that he couldn't find anything either. And then trying to search on the website takes you to a Google search. And so what do we do as residents? Because I'm curious to see if there is either language in that resolution or what may now be a motion. We're not really sure because no one can find anything. But the opportunity to get some residents on the Parks and Rec Subcommittee to talk about what the residents want to see. So that was the first thing. On the next agenda, I wanted to know if we could put it on there to be decisive about the new recording technology for the additional meetings that Trustee Spencer was talking about, and put some timelines with it.
Just go ahead, I'll tell you afterward.
Okay.
Go.
So I just wanted to see if maybe we could also get some board protocol details in your manual, so everybody knows how to use it, you know, when and where you can find stuff, just as a helpful way for people that can't attend meetings. I just think it's really beneficial. With that in mind, I also wanted to bring up, I think back on June 26th, at the end of the meeting, Trustee or Supervisor Palmer had given us a 36-second statement regarding this workplace investigation. And I just don't think that, based on the things that have come from different departments, different people, some recent newspaper reportings, I just don't think that that's adequate to let us know what occurred or what the parameters were of it. Maybe not the details of what was said, because that obviously should remain confidential. But every investigation has a report, and every report deserves to be evaluated if there are best practices or things that we as a township could learn going forward. Because you have to admit, even our former supervisor, when she resigned, indicated that there was some opportunity, maybe not in that same language, but that was relayed. And I just think that the board is doing a disservice to the public by not relaying what parameters were used, who was talked to, past, present, both, how many. The attorney, wasn't that the attorney that was used on a prior lawsuit? So isn't there companies out there that do this versus someone that isn't independent of the township? So I just think there's an opportunity to be a little more transparent, and it helps bridge that level of trust, is really what I'm trying to get across. Lastly, I wanted to ask if there has been an opportunity, we had talked before about putting on the agenda old business. Like, where are we at with the Kratos collections? Where are we at with the revisions to the FOIA procedures and how people are charged? There's old business that we keep kind of forgetting about until someone brings it up. And I just think a running line item would probably suffice. So, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I am Tom Maxwell, local resident, business owner. I will not be denied my legal rights any longer. I am being continually silenced by Tammy Klein and Bob Taser. I have made additional requests to speak with the Planning Commission through a special meeting or in addition to the next regular meeting agenda. I am being denied my requests, even though I've met the requirements put forth by the Planning Commission on August 7th. The motion put forth by Bob Taser was that I would be delayed until public comment was received from the township planner and engineer. There were no additional conditions put upon the motion put forth by Bob Taser. I received the public comments from the township engineer and the planner on August 15th. I'm still being denied my legal right to communicate directly with the Planning Commission. I want to be clear. The information that is being presented by Tammy and Bob is a filtered agenda to fit a narrative to silence the truth of the knowledge that I possess. They are simply withholding information and truths to protect themselves. I am being silenced because the information I have knowledge of will absolutely put Tammy Klein's standing and employment as Oscoda Township Superintendent in question going forward. I am making a plea to the members of the Planning Commission. At next Tuesday's Planning Commission meeting, please add me to the agenda under board member additions, the same way as I was delayed at the August 7th meeting. I am requesting the opportunity to expose the corruption, illegal activity, and unethical behavior I have been subjected to at the hands of Tammy Klein and Bob Taser. I want to be clear. I am not asking to have my development plan reviewed or approved. I am simply asking to respect my legal rights in Oscoda Township. Allow me to uncover the corruption, lies, and misinformation that Tammy and Bob have exposed our community to over the past several months. We residents of Oscoda Township deserve our local government to be handled in an open and ethical manner. If Tammy and Bob truly believe they have nothing to hide, they will welcome this transparent discussion next week. I will be attending the meeting and will be prepared to discuss all matters publicly as our government should do. If I'm not able to transparently discuss the issues that I have been subjected to over the previous months at the Planning Commission meeting next week, I will reach out to local, regional, and state agencies and media to help me expose the depth of the issues Oscoda Township is currently facing. This is not about my project. This is about exposing to the public the truth of what happens behind closed doors in Oscoda Township Hall and holding those individuals who are blatantly disregarding township ordinances and ethical procedures. One way or another, the truth will come out. To the Planning Commission members, it is your choice how we proceed. I will see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Here? I don't see any hands. All right. Board comments. Ms. McGuire.
Oh, don't start with me.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Mr. Westergaard?
I gotta get my stuff together.
Okay.
I'd like to go after you.
I'll go first. We got the meeting owl yesterday, or today. It showed up today. I'll be messing with it on Wednesday. And it's, I know, I'm sorry it's taking so long, but you were right. Thank you.
I'll go next. Nobody else seemed to want to go. Okay, fine. I'd like to also address Kelly Brown's question about the website. So yes, there is a search bar. It does do, in fact, what she says, which it does not really search the website. It goes out to Google or some other search engine and doesn't really let you see what's going on the website. So if you're trying to find something, it's hard to find if you're looking specifically on the website. This is something I raised to Revise, which is our website developer and the company that hosts our website. Back on February 23rd, there were a whole bunch of issues going on then, and it was around that same time that Ms. Brown came to me, or the board, and announced several issues with just being able to generally try to find information on the website, and that some of the verbiage was confusing, and so I went and did my own investigation. I found that there was room for improvement, and I had then, in the time following, I had met with Ms. McGuire and very efficiently got the information from her that she needed, how we were going to reorganize the treasurer's office information. I made the adjustments and proposed them to her, and then she liked them, and I pushed them out on the website. So her area has been completely updated, and last I heard,
It's fabulous.
it's working really well. Thank you.
Fabulous.
That's right. Thank you. And now I have the content from the clerk's office. Have to say that unfortunately my biggest delay on that is that it's summer and I'm trying to get through my laundry list of projects that I need to finish before the fall starts, and I'm sweating it. So anyway, but shortly I'm going to be working on that content and updating that for the community. But it still leaves an open question with Revise as to why the search bar behaves the way it does. Do understand, though Jeremy and I have been in IT for decades, and many decades between the two of us, that we do not have the ability to rewrite the website or get into some weird customization on the back end. We're licensing the ability to host our website with this provider, and they have a tool that they offer that is ultimately how this website presents itself when you go to it on the internet. So I sent the question again to Revise this morning while I was on the call with Ms. Brown, and we'll see what they say. Last I checked, I hadn't heard from them. So it'll be one of those just sort of keep knocking on the door until we get an answer. And to the point, if we do get into some kind of a vague email, I would like to get Jeremy onto a call and maybe over at the Township Hall with Tammy and do a conference call with Revise. That's my recommendation. So that was it. So apologies. The website is not a bad website. It's just that the content needed some sprucing up, and thanks to the department heads, we're getting there. But that's all I had to say on that. Hopefully that answered your question as well and gave everybody an update. Thank you. Back to you, Bill.
Mr. Sutton, do you have a comment?
Man, where to begin? I would just like to say thank you to Robin again. That's no joke. That's your bosses and fellow librarians that talk to me all the time, remind me how amazing you are and that they're reaching out to you. So don't take that lightly. That's not just us. That's the entire community, our county, and other librarians looking up to you to follow your lead and bring that same energy to their communities too. So it's not lightly. It takes a lot nowadays to get kids out, and every time we go into the library, there are kids all over that library. And in a world where they usually have a phone in their face, that's why I say you're the best librarian ever. It gives me a little hope that I won't work until death because they're playing video games. So. And thank you to Ms. Wushtabarth and everyone else on the RAB committee and everything going forward. This was a phenomenal meeting. You should go watch it. It has turned the tide. Things are going in the right direction. It's been a lot of wins for us this summer, just in the community involvement, the projects we've been working on. It's been phenomenal, and it's all the people in the community helping and keeping that going. And I know all of you. I know there's days you don't want to, but you do. You get up and do it anyway, and that's what makes you amazing and makes our town amazing. And the gals of the beautification, you rock. It's everywhere. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I look forward to continued things we do at the end of every summer. We are coming and doing more in our town, It has been packed. We have had people here, all except for this past weekend, because I believe every kid in the state went back on Monday, so the parents were diligently at home getting ready for that wonderful celebration. So just a big thank you to everybody and all you do, and anybody I missed, shoot me a message, I'll make sure, because there's just so many people doing so many things, and I think it's important. A lot of beautiful things at this meeting tonight discussed, and a lot of new things coming for us, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McGuire, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you. A couple of things. Summer taxes are due September 14th. So if you don't know if your mortgage company has paid it or not paid it, give us a call. We'll be happy to look it up for you. I have a lot of people that are paying by automatic payment where we deduct it out of your checking or savings account. It's free, and especially for the people that are going away for the wintertime, it's great because then you don't have to worry about it. I will be mailing out the reminders to everybody. Unfortunately, some people don't tell us that they've sold their house, and we are trying to still take it out of their checking and savings account when there's a new owner. Please make sure you reach out to the treasurer's office and update your information. Whether you got a new checking account, new savings account, I'll send out that reminder, make sure everything is good, and then we deduct that on the due dates for each tax season. The dams, the other thing I wanted to talk about is I just seen posted out on social media about consumers' energy and the public meetings that are coming up for the dams. You're going to hear me talk about this for probably the next 5 years at least, I'm sure. But they are scheduled public meetings for Loud and 5 Channels Dam is Wednesday, October 11th at Oscoda Area High School. And then for Cook and Foot Dam is Tuesday, October 24th, also at Oscoda High School. Just to be clear, all 4 of those dams are in Oscoda Township. Out of the 13 dams they are talking about, 4 of them are in our township. That's huge.
Yep.
So public attendance is necessary. Please be there to get the information. Thank you.
Me?
Sure.
Yeah, I would just like to say that yesterday at the Veterans Memorial Park, they unveiled the War Dog Memorial.
All right, nice.
And it's a beautiful statue of a soldier holding his helmet, pouring water into it for his war dog. A couple of years ago, the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation of Northeastern Michigan had asked the Oscoda Rock Fest Committee if we would take on the challenge of raising funds for that project. And I'm really glad to say that we did accept that challenge, and all of our funds went towards that over the last 4, this would be the 4th annual this year. After 3 previous Oscoda Rock Fest events, we've raised over $40,000 going to that Veterans Memorial Park Foundation, and we can plan on continuing doing that. So September 9th at the Veterans Memorial Park will be the 4th annual Oscoda Rock Fest. So $25 a ticket. That's cheap for an all-day event like that. There will be vendors, there will be food, there will be great music, and the headline band this year is a national touring act called the Moonshine Bandits. So it'll be a full day of events and fun. So please come on out and support Oscoda Rock Fest, and in turn the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation. So thank you.
I have a couple of statements from our township attorney that I would like to read. I just received these. The first one states that allegations that the township superintendent has committed any legal or ethical errors in regard to the Maxwell Special Land Use or Site Plan are untrue. Ms. Klein has been in communication with the township attorney and the township's planning consultant since being made aware of an issue with the approval of the Maxwell Special Land Use, and they are working together to correct the errors in the handling of the Maxwell Special Land Use by the Planning Commission at the direction of the former Planning and Zoning Director. The second letter, notice from our attorney, is Mr. Taser was correct to bring his concerns regarding the handling of the Maxwell Special Land Use and Site Plan to the superintendent, which prompted the superintendent to consult with the township attorney and township planning consultant. Any allegations that Mr. Taser violated the chain of command with respect to this issue is inaccurate. It's from our township attorney. I had a couple other comments that I wanted to make. One was brought up about the workplace harassment. The statement that I read was the statement from our attorney, which did the investigation. It was his recommendation that that is what I should read, without going into detail. He is our labor attorney, so he was appropriate to follow up on this investigation. He did a very thorough job, talked to a lot of people, and what I read was his recommendation. In an earlier comment, I was asked to talk about water loss. I think what I tried to explain on the WBKB interview that I had was that I don't think people understand how we pay for our water. The water, Oscoda Township is one of 5 communities that owns the Huron Shores Regional Utility Authority, HUSRA. That consists of Tawas, East Tawas, Baldwin Township, AuSable Township, and Oscoda Township. We are by far the largest user of the water. But the way it's paid, which means we own, it's a cooperative. We are one of 5 communities that own the HUSRA facilities. So, the water that we use, how we pay HUSRA, we don't pay for the water that we use, we pay their budget. And we pay their budget in proportion to the amount of ownership that we have. Since we are the largest township with the most participants and the most water users, we own 51% of the HUSRA authority. So we pay 51% of their budget annually. That's what we pay for our water. Now, I don't want to make light of the water loss because it's important, but it should be noted that all water that comes from HUSRA eventually, one way or another, ends up back in Lake Huron to be recycled back into our water, whether it's a water loss, which flows into the ground and eventually out to Lake Huron, whether it is water that we use and goes into our wastewater treatment plant and eventually to Clark's Marsh and then out to the AuSable and then out to Lake Huron. Every drop of water that comes from HUSRA eventually, one way or another, ends up back in Lake Huron and then is recycled again through our system. So I just want people to understand how the payment process works for the water. We don't actually pay for the water we use. There's not a meter, and HUSRA sends us a bill every month for the amount of water we use. I don't want to make light of the water loss. It's important. We need to, try and find these breaks. But given the soil composition here, if there's a leak going on underwater, the water, it's sand, it sinks down below. Like I said, ends up back out in Lake Huron eventually. But if we don't find it, it just keeps leaking. And like Rick mentioned, this recent loss that we had up here, 100,000 gallons a day. That's $3 million gallons a month. We don't really know how long that was leaking, but what was indicated when they repaired it was that it had been leaking for a while. So there's 3 million gallons in a month that we can account for. So all of these need to be, we need to do a better job of trying to find the leaks and correcting them as we're going along. But I want residents to know that it's not really costing you extra money for that water that's being lost in leaks. So that's all the comments I had. Thank you. Steve, you had something?
Yes, and I wanted to wait because I wanted Bill to kind of make that statement.
I have to say I'm very disappointed in the Oscoda press over the last couple of weeks of reporting in regards to the Maxwell case. I can't for the life of me understand why we would reach out, or the Oscoda press would reach out to Mr. Cummings and Mr. Spencer when they weren't even at the meeting. The only 3 people in administration or the board at that meeting were Mr. Taser, Mr. Palmer, and Ms. Klein. So I would suggest that the Oscoda press, let's focus on factual reporting. Let's focus on getting the facts and not reporting accusations and lies. Because in this case, that's what happened. There's been false issues that claims that have been made against Ms. Klein and Mr. Taser. And it's actually created a lot of chaos out in the public. Everywhere I've kind of went over the last 2.5 weeks, I'd have people stopping me in town asking me about this. So I challenge the Oscoda press to sit down with the right people and let's get the facts and report the facts. I'm all for the freedom of press, but it's got to be factual, not opinionated. And that's what it was. So I'm disappointed, and I hope that you will remedy that situation. And at some point in the near future, there will be a retraction above the fold and on the front page. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Anything else?
With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Mm-mm.